We now bring in CBS Sports national college sports reporter John Talty. And John, what led to things to escalate to this point with this situation today?
Well, I think it's been a buildup, but I also think that today is unexpected in some ways, just because I think, there was a general expectation that LSU is going to make staff changes today. I think that's what we were kind of bracing for and trying to report around. Certainly was not expecting Brian Kelly to end today without a job. But after a meeting that he had with AD Scott Woodward went poorly, it really set the wheels in motion. And the wheels were able to be set in motion because of things that happened before today, of course, right? Losing the game the way they did on Saturday. And just overall, if you look at the expectations of when you go out and hire a guy like Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, you give him a huge guaranteed deal. You're expecting national championships. The last three guys before him all won national championships, and Nick Saban, Les Miles, and then Ed Ogeron. And so you hired a Brian Kelly to win a national championship. And in his time at LSU, he never got close to doing that. Never made a playoff, never won an SEC championship, and ultimately just did not meet the expectations that LSU had when they went out and hired him. And so when you add all that up, you add in the fact that LSU fans are chanting to fire him on Saturday night. You've got the governor of Louisiana calling out the LSU football program on Twitter. It all led to this moment. But still, the expectation, I think, heading into today was that he would make staff changes and then they would reassess at the end of the year.
You talk about the governor of Louisiana calling LSU out on Twitter. What kind of role did he have into how things transpired?
Well, LSU is a unique situation because they don't have a permanent president right now. So typically in a situation like this, you're going to have your AD, your university president, and then your trustees, which at LSU's case is their board of supervisors. But there's not a president right now. There's an interim, but you're not going to allow an interim president to make a decision as important as this one in most instances. So that's the situation where the governor's gotten involved. And this is not the first time the governor's gotten involved in LSU related things, but certainly it's a high profile nature. And so he was, involved behind the scenes. And a situation like this where there is a lot of money that is going to have to go out to make Brian Kelly leave, like you need someone at a high level to approve that. And the governor, Jeff Landry, has been involved in those discussions and was involved in discussions with the board of supervisors before the ultimate decision was made to fire Brian Kelly today.
John, what can you tell us just about how Brian Kelly was perceived inside the building at LSU?
Well, I think, I wrote this more than a year ago. There were always questions about the fit. There were questions about the culture within the building. I think Brian Kelly, he's an old school guy. He's intense. You can see it on some of the sideline outbursts that went viral of him yelling at people and using some words that we can't use on TV here. So there were questions for a while about how he connected with the players. And I think ultimately that played, some of the reason why it didn't work out. I also can tell you that before today, he rubbed some boosters and some important people the wrong way. And I remember somebody telling me last year that, keep an eye on it. This is one of those reasons why a guy might get fired sooner than you think he would, because he didn't, develop the relationships maybe he needed to with some of those important people that ultimately make decisions like this one. So I think he just did not win enough. And I think ultimately, if you win a lot, people will forgive some of those personality quirks, you might say. But when you're not winning to the level that people want, then if you're a bit of a jerk to people, or if you rub some people the wrong way, those kind of feelings get amplified. And I think that played part of the role with Brian Kelly, that he just was not the most liked guy with certain people. And there also were a series of missteps, from pronunciation of family to some of the other comments he's made over the years.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment right there. But now we know that LSU is going to be a top landing spot, and there's a lot of top coaching candidates that are available right now. But who are some names that you're watching to fill this role?
Well, it's a good day to be Lane Kiffin, right? He's already a top candidate for Florida. Ole Miss looks like they're in a very good position to make the college football playoff, which could complicate some of these different coaching searches. LSU, Florida, Penn State, the three top jobs now on the market. You're probably going to want a coach who has a team that might be in the college football playoff. And where that gets tricky is if they want to wait until, say, December 19th, when the first round of the playoff is, or if they win a game or two, that's looking into January before you potentially hire that coach, which is tricky because the early signing period is December 4th, and then the one transfer portal window this year is January 2nd. So that's something that I think is going to have a real impact on this coaching cycle. It makes it a little tricky to project, but LSU is the best job on the market, in my opinion. It is the only Power Four school in that state. Everyone in Louisiana pulls for LSU, and there's a lot of money, a lot of good recruits in the state of Louisiana. And again, before Brian Kelly, the last 3 head coaches at LSU all won a national championship. And everyone knows that there are the resources available at LSU to win a national championship. So it's very attractive, whether that's Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkwitz, Lincoln Riley. There's all kinds of different names you could mention. Everyone is going to have some level of interest in LSU, just about whether LSU is interested in them and also whether they are movable, given the kind of the tricky calendar with the college football playoff this year.
LSU adding to Penn State, Florida, UCLA, some of these schools with a massive opening, a nice looking opening for some of these head coaches, yet to be determined, but I'm sure we will be finding out in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much, John Talty. Well, taking a look at the coaching carousel, what's available, who's in, who's out. We talked about a couple of them, Stanford, UCLA, and we're talking about out west. We're looking more east, LSU, the most recent, Florida, with Billy Napier out earlier last week, Penn State, with James Franklin out. Plenty of opportunities, plenty of openings. We'll see how things continue to take shape as the coaching carousel continues to spin.